Hello, sports fans, and welcome back to Sports on the Spot. My name is Willie Charger, and today I'm going to be joined by Nick James. Later on, Lenny and Ronnie will be here to give us their lowdown and rundown on the sports world. Lots of stuff going on in the sports world over the weekend. Major League Baseball coming to a hectic conclusion. Second week of the NFL season took place. A lot of stuff going on. Nick, anything stand out to you over the past weekend?
Willie, the big thing that stood out to me were the Chiefs losing a great game against the Ravens. And a question for you, Willie, who are the two teams in the AFC that are undefeated right now?
Well, that's an easy one. It's the Raiders and the Broncos.
Who would have thought? It's crazy. That was the big stat that stood out to me. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. There's more teams in the NFC West.
If I'm the Broncos and I'm playing the Giants and the Jacksonville Jags, my first two games, I better be 2-0. I mean, that's pathetic.
Good point. What'd you notice, Willie?
Well, I was really having a hard time trying to come up with something positive as far as my sports weekend goes. Lost in the Charger defeat to the Cowboys yesterday was the fact that the Padres ended up getting swept by the Cardinals over the weekend and are now 4 games back for that second wild card. It was tough. But one thing that does stand out is the fact that the NFL is this month celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And I thought to take a moment to give a shout out to some of the great NFL players who are Latino Hispanic descent. Jim Plunkett, of course, Stanford, played for the Raiders, the 49ers. You got Tom Flores, who's recently been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Of course, led to the Raiders to a couple of Super Bowls. You also have, of course, Joe Kapp, the Minnesota Vikings, went to the Super Bowl, went to Cal Berkeley. All these guys were from California. Oh, by the way, Tony Romo, born in San Diego. Of course, he, longtime NFL quarterback in the Cowboys and now CBS sports analyst. So that was my big positive of this weekend. Just give a shout out to all of the great Hispanic players who have played in the league. And one thing is true, they're not all kickers. A lot of these guys are quarterbacks. I didn't mention Jeff Garcia, of course, and the list goes on and on. And I could go on and on, but I want to give time to Lenny for his lowdown. So take it away, Lenny.
제가 되게 정교하게 좀 세밀하게 스토리보드를 만드는 편이고 제가 커버리지를 잘 안. 원작이 있을 때 오히려 시간이 더 많이 걸리는 경우도 있어요. 근데 그리고 설국열차의 원작 그래픽 노블이 이제 미국에서도 나왔는데 그 보신 분들은 알겠지만 되게 많이 달라요. 조적으로나 여러 가지로 되게 인물들이나 많이 달라요. 1년 동안 썼는데 제 입장에서는 되게 길게 쓴 편이고요. 쓰진 않을 거예요. 선택의 폭이 그렇지만 이미 제한된 선택의 폭에서 더 깊게 우리가 생각을 해볼 수는 있죠. 편집에 그걸 놓고. 그래서 삭제씬 별로 없어요. 그냥 찍은 거 다 쓰고 하나의 긴 하나의 과정처럼 저는 그냥 생각하고 있어요. 분리되지 않는 필요한 만큼만 찍는. 그렇지만 이제 저 같은 경우는 이것저것 다 찍어보는 스타일은 아니고 그럴 또 체력도 안 되고 그러니까 현장 편집 기사. 저뿐 아니라 한국 영화에는 대부분 그게 촬영하면서 또 기사를 그게 이제 또 나중에 메인 편집을 할 때는 물론 다르게 또 접근하긴 하지만 그게 또 많이 도움이 돼요. 미리 한번 편집을 이렇게 저렇게 해본다는 게. 그래서 메인 편집을 할 때 좀 더 깊게 우리가 들어갈 수 있고 그래서 제가 잘 숨어들어서 전원을 꽂아놓고 이제 이렇게 사람들을 등지고 앉아서 조용하게 쓰죠. 소음이 너무 클 때는 이제 헤드셋을 쓰기도 하고 또 뒤 테이블에서 누가 얘기하는 내용이 재밌으면 또 오히려 그걸 들으면서 계속 그렇게 하고 있어요. 계속 커피숍에서 쓰고요. 제가 잘 숨어들어서 찍어요. 그래서 편집자 입장에서 사실 별로 서플먼트에 딜리티드 씬 조금 들어갈 거예요. 근데 그 양이 그렇게 많진 않아요. 영화 초반에 조금 있어요. 초반에서 잘라낸 씬들이 딜리티드 씬이 조금 있죠. 계속 이런 사이즈, 영화의 스케일이나 이제 버젯이나 이런 사이즈를 계속 하고 싶어요. 미국 연쇄살인범들에 대해서도 공부를 많이 했거든요. 그 책이 되게 최초의 프로파일러가 쓴 책이잖아요. 되게 어떻게 바이블처럼 공부를 많이 했던 책이라 그 내용을 되게 잘 알고 있죠. 거기 나오는 살인마들의 캐릭터. 한국 영화는 약간 공포 영화의 호러.
Well, thanks for that, Lenny. Very, very analytical. scholarly and funny. Keep up the good work. Nick, I wanted to spend the time talking about the Chargers' frustrating defeat at the hands of the Cowboys over the weekend. As you know, they lost on the last play of the game, a 56-yard field goal by Zerline. All in all, it was a very frustrating game to watch as a Charger fan. There are all kinds of problems. I was watching this game, and I never even heard them call the name of a defensive lineman. I don't even know if the defensive line even made a tackle or even sacked Prescott the entire game. It seemed like once they got past the first tier, whether Zeke Elliott or Tony Pollard, the linebackers and the safeties are having to come up and make the tackle. Right now, they're currently the fourth worst rushing defense in the NFL. They gave up over 200 yards. Even worse was the offensive line had a hard time keeping that Micah Parsons out of the backfield, and there was some problems there. Don't get me wrong, the offense was great. I mean, they moved the ball up and down the field. They're number 5 in total yards right now in the NFL, but yet they're only 25 in scoring. They didn't get enough points. Nick, what's your big takeaway from watching the Chargers game?
I was really let down, Willie. I thought we were going to at least lose in a shootout if we were going to lose, but I thought we were going to put up at least 30 points, just looking how well we were doing against Washington. And the Cowboys lost to Marcus Lawrence for the weekend, so there's a big, strong defensive presence out. And I just couldn't believe that they beat us with the run game, too. I think they knew we'd have them locked up with Derwin James and our pass rush, and they just got Zeke and Pollard going. It was pretty disappointing.
They have a new scheme, a new coaching staff, but they still committed some of the same old mistakes and penalties that they did in the past. They had 12 penalties, almost 100 yards. That killed them. I was amazed that they were able to score that one touchdown drive when they had 4 penalties called against them. So the Chargers are still, I think, a work in progress. I'm still optimistic about them, but they've got a lot to improve on before they are going to be considered one of the top teams in the NFL. Of course, they've had a tough schedule, losing to the Cowboys and barely beating Washington. But the schedule doesn't get any easier. They still got to play the Ravens. I mean, they got to play New England. They have the Chiefs next week. There aren't a lot of gimmies on the Chargers schedule.
I think we can come back. I mean, we're 1-1, like a lot of those teams you just mentioned. So still early in the season, doing a lot better than my fantasy teams, unfortunately. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes next week.
In other NFL news, I was hoping I might be able to get Ronnie in on this, but I wanted to ask Ronnie about the plethora of injuries that struck a number of teams over the weekend. A lot of quarterbacks were knocked out of the game, and some are even on injured reserve. Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben in Pittsburgh, has a pectoral injury. Tyrod Taylor got knocked out. He's on the injured reserve now. Of course, Andy Dalton of the Bears, he's got injured, as did Carson Wentz. Poor guy, both of his ankles went out. Lots of injuries to key players. And some of the guys, the second-year guys especially, who had a chance to play, really didn't do that well. Any comments on these second-year guys, Nick, who don't seem to be quite ready for prime time?
Well, I was excited to see Justin Fields go in for Andy Dalton. I was more excited about the Andy Dalton revenge game, but Ron, you picked him, I think, in a couple of fantasy leagues as your deep sleeper. Were you pretty excited to see what Justin Fields had going on to try to lock up the Bengals game? Or, the Bengals game?
Yeah, well, I think that's going to actually work out for the Bears, getting Justin Fields in there sooner than later. That was all inevitable anyway. So I think that works out for them. Carson Wentz, nothing new there, whatever. Big Ben's, not that Big Ben is kind of a, all-pro caliber play anymore, but I think he just means a lot to that team. So that's, if the Steelers have any kind of playoff aspirations, Big Ben, just from an emotional standpoint, I think is a big loss. And Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if that really moves the needle one way or the other for the Texans either. So I don't know how significant all these. I think the most significant is Dalton, and it's going to end up being a positive for the Bears with Justin Fields if he does take over.
regarding Justin Fields, he does show definitely a lot of promise, but so does Jalen Hurts for that matter. And he wasn't exactly sparkling over the weekend. Trevor Lawrence, he seemed to struggle in his second straight defeat. And over there in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, 3 interceptions, maybe getting hit by the sophomore jinx. I don't know, but some of these guys, with the exception of Mac Jones, who fortunately plays for Bill Belichick and the Patriots, there aren't a lot of really young quarterbacks who are good. Of course, Sam Darnold, he's been in the league, I think 1 or 2 years better, but he's doing pretty good in Carolina. But we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on.
I just got to add, if I could just add, it's pretty amazing the success Sam Darnold has already had in 2 games now that he's not a Jet. That is, look, as a Giants fan, I can't really talk, but that's the most Jets thing ever. The fact that Sam Darnold is now playing pretty well. That could have not be more Jets. So that's pretty funny to see.
I recall the Jets looking at Darnold as some kind of savior when he joined the team just 3 years ago, and they gave up on him so quickly. I just don't understand. I think he's a good quarterback, but he just didn't have the right guys surrounding him. And now he goes to a Carolina team, which I don't even know is that much better, but he's, like Ronnie said, seems to really be doing good. Again, it's only 2 games, and it's a long season, but a very, very good start for Sam Darnold. Ron, I know you have a lot more to add to the NFL discussion in your rundown, so let's give you a chance to do that. Take it away, Ron.
All right, guys, we're back at it. Week 3. We righted the ship a little bit last week. Oddly enough, the Rams was the pick that didn't work out for me, but we hit on the Cowboys and the Vikings. So 2-1. So pretty good now with 3-3, back at even on the year, and hopefully we'll turn it around going into week 3 and start coming away with some money. So let's jump right into it. I love the Ravens -8 at the Lions. The Ravens are a good team. The Lions are a bad team. Enough said. Although I will say that the Ravens coming off that big win, I think they're looking pretty good. Lamar's starting to feel it. I don't know how the Lions are going to stop Lamar Jackson. And then the Ravens will just run it down their throats. And the defenses, will be able to withstand that pedestrian Lions offense. I like Packers +3.5. Another team that again, they played the Lions, so not really world beaters, but the Packers are looking a little bit better. I'm not really worried about Rodgers. Of course, after week 1, everybody's freaking out about Rodgers, this and that. I like him +3.5 at the 49ers. That'll probably be a close game. I can see the Niners winning on a field goal, but that's why we take the 3.5. And lastly, I'm going to go Cowboys at home, Monday Night Football, -3.5 against the Eagles. Cowboys are looking good. I'll happily eat my words. I was kind of down on the Cowboys, ragging on them a little bit in the offseason, but they're looking pretty good. They're definitely the best team in the NFC East. Eagles, they're okay. I don't know about the Eagles yet, so but I like the Cowboys at home, and I think they're looking pretty good. So we'll go Ravens, we'll go Packers, and we'll go Cowboys. And I want to thank everybody who did contribute to Patsy Pascalino's GoFundMe. Looks like he's going to be able to get the hair restoration surgery after all. And, hopefully we'll be able to send those a nice pic of how good he's looking now with the new hair. So look for that, and we'll talk to you soon.
Ronnie, I just got to say, you totally rock. I'll bet you said some interesting things. So let's go now to our iconic Sports on the Spot question. Out of many great candidate questions from our nation of viewers, we chose this one from Bummed Out in Bakersfield. Ooh, I like the alliteration. He or she asks, is the NFL's enforcement of taunting rules taking things too far? What do you think, guys?
Hey, that's a very, very timely question. There's been a lot of controversy about this new taunting rule that the NFL refs are now starting to enforce. And my problem with this new rule is that the refs really don't enforce it evenly. There was a terrible play in the Charger game where Keenan Allen, the Charger receiver, got his head smashed in the ground by the defensive back when they were getting up off the ground. The ref didn't call a penalty on that player. And what did Allen do? He just got in the guy's face and said, hey, don't do that. And Allen gets a taunting foul, which at that point, that penalty hurt the Chargers. It's a stupid rule. I don't like it.
there's already been way too many taunting penalties, and who's this for? I mean, the players understand. They're the ones invested in the game. Is this for the coaches or the owners that are getting tired of being taunted because their teams are bad? I mean, how can you do a celebration in the end zone choreographed with your team? How's that not taunting? But at the heat of a play, maybe flexing when you hit somebody. I mean, there's where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've gone far enough on taunting. I would be a fan of all celebrations and taunting being banned. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, if guys celebrate after getting a first down, whatever the case may be, it's not necessary. Of course, it's entertainment. These guys are superstars. They're marketable. Everybody loves that stuff. But if it's me, just hand the ball off to the ref and keep on moving. So I'd like to see more celebrations and taunting banned.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are talking about enforcement and penalties. I question the rules at all. Look, when I was a kid, I didn't get into Pop Warner for some stupid reason, but I did play pickup football. I was relentlessly taunted. For what? For dropping the ball a lot. I mean, and why would I not drop the ball? These guys are trying to tackle me, but they would pants me, give me Dutch rubs and all this. And, we didn't have any taunting rules at all. And I turned out fine. At least that's what my therapist says. So I don't even think we need taunting rules.
So, Ron, you're saying that there shouldn't even be taunting, because that was one of my favorite parts of playing. But you're saying get rid of it altogether.
Shouldn't be taunting. Shouldn't be taunting, or shouldn't be taunting rules.
Well, obviously,
I think
Ron
there
is
should be strong. I think there should be stricter rules.
Oh,
stricter rules. Stricter rules. Ron, obviously, you've never been in the trenches in a football game.
like me. Yeah.
So, Ron, I don't know where you're coming from with your with this opinion of yours. Can you help us out?
Yeah. What's the matter with you, Ron?
I think there's only one way to settle this. We should all throw some pads on and see what happens.
I'm up for that.
Well, football is definitely a game of emotions, and we don't want to get our emotions too carried away with this conversation. So I'm going to have to cut it off right now and end this week's show. We are out of time. I know we could argue about this a lot more. Some people have some pretty offbeat opinions on this subject, and we're just going to have to leave it at that. I want to thank everybody for watching. We did have a lively discussion. I also remind everybody to like, comment, and subscribe to the show if you have a chance. And any Sports on the Spot questions you may have can be submitted to the sportsonthespotshow at gmail.com, or just ask the question in the little box in the channel, YouTube channel. We'll try to get to it. That's going to be it for today's show. We'll see you all next time.
Unbelievable.